Let's get started with our first news story, and it's a big one. Charles Oliveira has gone off on the lightweight division, and he's making sure everyone hears him loud and clear. In a recent interview, Charles didn't mince his words. He let it be known that he's frustrated, fed up with the talk, and tired of the excuses. According to him, none of the top fighters wanted to face him in Brazil. Not a single one, except for Rafael Fiziev, who was the only man willing to accept the challenge. Oliveira explained exactly how things went down. "They offered me names," he said, "but those guys didn't even want the fight. They talk trash from afar, but when I say come on, I'm here, they back down. Dan Hooker talks nonsense online, but when called out, he bails. That's not just a complaint, that's a direct call out to some of the most well-known names in the division." For Charles, this isn't just about booking a fight. This is about respect. This is about proving who's really willing to step into the cage and back up their words with actions. He's a former champion, a man who has fought the toughest competition the UFC has to offer, and he feels that too many fighters in today's lightweight division are more interested in talking than fighting. And let's be real, Oliveira has a point. The man has gone toe-to-toe with killers in the octagon, faced adversity, and always brought the fight. So when he sees fighters turning down opportunities, especially in his home country, it clearly hits a nerve. Fighting in Brazil isn't just another location for Charles, it's his backyard, his home turf, the place where the crowd roars for him like no other. For opponents, it's intimidating. For Charles, it's a source of pride. By calling out the division in this way, Oliveira is sending a message: if you've got something to say, back it up in the octagon. If you want to prove you're the best, you don't run from fights, you step up no matter where it is, no matter who's watching. And right now in Charles Oliveira's eyes, too many lightweights just aren't living up to that standard. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We're constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That's why we'd truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now moving on to our second major update, Chael Sonnen has dropped a bold claim, revealing what he believes was a huge mistake made by the UFC, and he's talking about one of the biggest what-ifs in modern MMA history. For years, fans around the world have debated whether the UFC would ever book a rematch between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. The hype was always there, the money would have been astronomical, but ultimately, the fight never happened. And according to Sonnen, the promotion handled the situation completely wrong. Let's rewind the clock. Back in October 2018, McGregor and Khabib met inside the octagon for what was, at the time, the most anticipated grudge match the sport had ever seen. The build-up was chaotic. Press conferences filled with insults, security everywhere, and tensions running so high that many believed it could boil over before fight night even arrived. And when the cage door closed, it was Khabib who proved he was levels above. He dominated McGregor from the opening bell, eventually locking in a third-round submission to silence the Irishman's comeback hopes. That night, Khabib not only defended his belt but also cemented his legacy as one of the most dominant lightweights of all time. After that, Khabib went on to defend the title 2 more times before announcing his retirement in 2020, walking away with an undefeated record of 29 vs. McGregor, meanwhile, spent years calling for a rematch, insisting he could fix his mistakes from the first fight. But here's the thing, he only fought once before Khabib's retirement, a quick first-round TKO over Donald Cerrone in January 2020. That win was impressive, but it was also his first since 2016, and as Sonnen points out, it wasn't exactly the resume that screams instant title shot. Speaking recently on the Wise Nuts podcast, Sonnen shared his theory on why Khabib vs. McGregor 2 never happened. In his mind, the UFC failed to think outside the box. He believes that if the fight had been booked at 170 pounds instead of the usual lightweight limit of 155, things could have been very different. They just got faced with this with Islam, Sonnen said, referencing current champion Islam Makhachev. You can cut Islam's career short like you did Khabib's, or you can let him go up to 170. But he's not going to beat that scale over and over again. It's the hardest part of the sport. It's an interesting perspective, but even if the rematch had been offered at welterweight, there's still the question, would Khabib have agreed? He never seemed motivated by money alone, and he had already beaten McGregor decisively at UFC 22-9. For Khabib, the job was done. And just to lighten the conversation, Sonnen and his wife even joked during the same interview about sending their own son to Dagestan for a few years of hard training. Have you thought about sending him to Dagestan for 2 or 3 years and just forget? Sonnen laughed. His wife replied, I told him that last week. I said, I'm sending you. You're getting sent to Dagestan 2 or 3 years and that's it. Their son's reaction? I would actually really like that. Who knows, maybe one day we'll see a Sonnen kid training with the Dagestani greats, wrestling on those same mats where champions are made. Now let's move on to another big talking point, the possibility of Paulo Costa taking on Khamzat Chimaev if he gets past Dricus du Plessis. This isn't just a hypothetical thrown out by fans on social media, it's a fight that's been seriously discussed by Gilbert Burns and Renato Moicano, and both agree if it happens, it could be a massive blockbuster for the UFC. The middleweight division, while stacked with talent, is a little thin when it comes to true star power. There aren't many names that make casual fans sit up, take notice, and say, yeah, I'm buying that pay-per-view. But one guy who absolutely fits that bill is Paulo Costa. The man has charisma, knockout power, and a wild, unpredictable personality that translates into big numbers. And then there's Khamzat Chimaev, the undefeated high-pressure juggernaut who has been running through opponents like a buzzsaw. The rivalry between these two didn't just pop up overnight. It goes back a couple of years, sparked by a heated altercation that quickly became MMA meme material. Ever since then, fans have been calling for them to settle it inside the octagon. And recently, that rivalry got fresh fuel when Costa returned in style, delivering a dominant win over Ikram Aliskerov, a fight that reminded everyone exactly how dangerous Borrachinha can be. At the moment, Costa is rumored to be getting a rematch against Israel Adesanya. Nothing's confirmed yet, but if that fight happens and Costa wins, both Burns and Moicano believe he's the obvious next challenger for the belt. And here's where it gets interesting. Costa and Chimaev were actually scheduled to fight once before, but the bout collapsed when Costa pulled out. That unfinished business is still hanging in the air, and it's part of what makes this potential clash so compelling. Burns pointed out something important. As good as guys like Ikram Aliskerov or Caio Borralho are, they just don't bring the same star power. Chimaev is a proven pay-per-view draw, but to maximize that, he needs an opponent who can match his presence and energy. Costa, with his trash talk, physicality, and proven ability to sell a fight, checks every single box. Moicano didn't hold back either. If Costa goes out there and beats Adesanya, oh, he's nasty, bro, he said. If he wins convincingly and gets a knockout, he's fighting for the title for sure. But Moicano also issued a bit of a warning. Costa needs to stay active. Historically, he's had long gaps between fights, and momentum is everything in the UFC. Still, if both men win their next fights, the stage would be set for an absolute collision of personalities, styles, and egos. Chimaev's relentless pressure against Costa's brute force and counter-striking would be a can't-miss spectacle. Add in the years of trash talk and tension, and you've got the recipe for one of the UFC's biggest middleweight showdowns in recent memory. Speaking of fireworks, the MMA community is absolutely roasting Conor McGregor after some brand new training footage surfaced online. This morning, a short clip hit social media showing McGregor working the pads, and let's just say fans were not impressed. In the video, McGregor looked well sluggish. His hands weren't snapping back to his chin, his punches lacked crispness, and his rhythm seemed all over the place. This wasn't the lightning-fast Notorious people remembered from his featherweight and lightweight title runs. This was a slower, bulkier version. And in the ruthless world of MMA Twitter, that's all it took for the roast session to begin. The comments came flooding in almost instantly. One fan joked, "The year is 2032. A video of Conor McGregor hitting pads is posted. He still hasn't fought since 2021, but claims he'll be fighting at UFC 400. Another quipped, "We've been getting pad work videos for nearly 5 years. Just sign a fight contract already or stop teasing us." Some took it further, suggesting McGregor would get knocked out by any ranked fighter right now. They pointed out that he looked anywhere from 15 to 25 pounds heavier than his fighting weight, carrying more bulk than sharpness. A few even said the only thing moving fast in the video was his coach's patience. Of course, not every comment was purely negative. There were a few optimistic voices in the mix, arguing that with consistent training and if he fully commits between now and his rumored return at the Sphere in Las Vegas, McGregor could still turn back the clock. They reminded fans that he's always had elite timing and accuracy, and those skills don't just disappear overnight. Still, for most viewers, the slow pace was too hard to ignore. Many chalked it up to years of living the high life rather than grinding in the gym. McGregor's been spotted traveling, partying, and enjoying luxury yachts far more often than sparring sessions over the last few years. Others speculated the bulkier physique was a result of heavyweight training and possibly extra help from supplements, which might explain the extra muscle but also the slower hand speed. Perhaps the most viral comment of them all summed it up in just a few words, Bro's hitting the pads like he's buffering on bad Wi-Fi. It spread like wildfire, with fans reposting it alongside gifs of loading screens and spinning wheels. The reality is, no matter how much criticism comes his way, McGregor remains one of the biggest draws in MMA. The man could post a video tying his shoelaces, and it would still make headlines. But the latest clip has reignited the conversation about whether the sport has passed him by, or if he's just playing the long game before reminding everyone why he became the notorious king in the first place. Meanwhile, Khamzat Chimaev has been making headlines for a completely different reason. Not for his usual in-cage dominance, but for something far more personal: building an MMA gym in his hometown. Chimaev, one of the sport's fastest rising stars and most polarizing figures, has been cashing big checks over the last few years, but he hasn't forgotten where he came from. Born in the small village of Gvardiskoye, Chechnya in 1994, Chimaev's story is well known to fight fans. At just 13 years old, he moved with his family to Sweden, chasing better opportunities but carrying with him the grit and toughness of his early life. Wrestling was his first love, and it was the foundation on which he eventually built his MMA career. He's often spoken about training in humble makeshift conditions as a kid. No fancy facilities, no high-end gear, just determination and the will to work harder than everyone else. Fast forward to today, and Chimaev is set for the biggest fight of his career, a showdown with middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319 on August 16th. But even in the middle of his training camp, he's been putting time, effort, and money into giving back to his roots. During the UFC Countdown episode, cameras followed him through the construction site of a brand new martial arts facility in his village. Walking through the unfinished building, Chimaev spoke with pride about his vision. "Now it's my time to give back," he said. "That's why I'm building a gym. I need good people in my village, strong people. This is my work. I have to do the best for them." Interestingly, the gym won't feature an MMA cage, at least not yet. Chimaev explained that his goal is to start young kids on a wrestling foundation before anything else. First, they have to become wrestlers. Then after 15 years, 20 years, I don't know. They'll choose what they want to do. It's not a gym for me. I'm building it for the kids. Speaking to ESPN, Chimaev elaborated on how the gym could be a life-changing opportunity for local youth. He recalled his own struggles as a boy, having to travel to another village just to find a place to train because nothing existed nearby. "If somebody becomes a champ or a good fighter, makes money and helps his people, I would be happy," he said with a smile. It's a rare softer side from a fighter known for his relentless aggression inside the cage. Love him or hate him, Chimaev's project is more than just bricks and mats. It's a statement that success means nothing if you don't lift others up with you. And finally, Paddy Pimblett has given fans a fresh update on a possible showdown with Ilia Topuria, a fight that's quickly becoming one of the most talked about potential matchups in MMA. Paddy is right on the verge of a title shot, and with the new champion already calling his name, the hype is building fast. The only real obstacle? UFC matchmakers, who might decide that a higher-ranked contender in the stacked lightweight division deserves the shot first. Right now, names like Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje are firmly in the conversation. But here's the twist. Topuria has made it crystal clear that he has zero interest in fighting Tsarukyan. In fact, the champ has gone as far as to say he'd rather give up his belt than defend it against him. That kind of statement only fuels the speculation that Paddy might be able to skip the queue if the UFC decides the matchup is too good to pass up. Paddy's rise has been nothing short of spectacular. From his UFC debut to his rapid climb into the top 10, he's built a fan base that stretches well beyond the UK, with an energy and charisma that's hard to ignore. It's no wonder so many people want to see him square off with Topuria. The fight sells itself. In a recent YouTube video, Paddy addressed the constant buzz surrounding the matchup. "All I kept being asked was, who are you fighting? When are you fighting Ilia? I have no idea," he admitted. "Hopefully it's going to be me versus the chorizo next, and I think that's what all the Americans want. But I understand that I'm ranked number 9 or something, so other people probably are more deserving, but posh boy Arman Tsarukyan definitely isn't." It's classic Paddy, mixing honesty with a little trash talk to keep the heat on his rivals. And whether you love or hate him, you can't deny he knows how to keep his name in the headlines. So the million-dollar question is this: will we see Paddy versus Topuria before the year ends, or will the UFC chart a different course? The answer could depend on timing, injuries, and of course pay-per-view math. What's certain is that right now the UFC is spoiled for choice. The lightweight division is stacked, the middleweight division has fresh matchups brewing, and the welterweight division is heating up too. No matter how the matchmakers play it, The next year could deliver some of the most exciting fights the sport has seen in years, and fans everywhere are ready for war.